What is up, guys? Delboy here. A quick prediction for Jose Uzcategui versus Caleb Plant. This fight goes down on the 13th of January. It is a PBC card. In the UK, this card is going to be shown on ITV4, which is great news because that means free boxing for us. I'm really intrigued about this fight. To me, when I saw that PBC lineup, this was the fight that jumped out at me for some reason. It was the fight I was looking forward to most. I'm actually also looking forward to the Manny Pacquiao versus Adrian Broner fight as well. Again, that is on ITV4. But Uzcategui versus Caleb Plant really intrigues me. I am pleased to see Uzcategui fight again and get some shine. I think he's a very exciting fighter and an underrated fighter at 168 pounds. You know, he is now the IBF super middleweight champion after James DeGale ducked him. James DeGale vacated and Uzcategui was then elevated to be full world champion. And this fight will be his first defence. So I am pleased to see Uzcategui back in the ring. And as for Caleb Plant, to me he's interesting. He does look quite polished. He does look quite slick and skillful. Defensively he's quite sound. On the come up, he's not really fought that high level of competition. But in his last fight, he did take a step up against Porky Medina. And he beat Porky Medina by a unanimous decision, and he pretty much won every round. He boxed quite well that night, and I felt he dealt with that occasion quite well. You know, it was a step up, and, you know, he dealt with Medina. Now, Medina isn't a world-class fighter or anything like that, but he did give James DeGale hell, and, you know, he always comes to fight, and I was impressed with how Caleb Plant neutralised him, to be quite honest. The problem I have is that Caleb Plant hasn't been active since then. His fight with Medina was in February 2018 and he's not fought since then. So going into this fight, it will be 11 months. So he's not been active, and a guy like Caleb Plant, a guy who relies on distance control, footwork, rhythm, I believe they are the type of fighters that inactivity hurts the most. So going into this fight, you have to take that into account. Will ring rust play a factor? I don't know, maybe. And another thing you've got to take into account, look at Uzcategui's career so far. Uzcategui has fought guys who can stick and move, who can box, who are technical, who have good rhythm, you know, guys like Matvey Korobov, Andre Durrell twice. This type of style isn't new to Jose Uzcategui, to be quite honest. And the way he dealt with Andre Durrell in their second fight kind of leads me to believe he has improved on his ability to cut off a ring and get closer to defensive opponents. I think he learnt a lot in that Korobov fight and that first Durrell fight, and now he's a lot more comfortable in dealing with fighters who stick and move. You can actually almost see the progress in each one of those fights I mentioned. So the Korobov fight, you know, he looked very green, he looked very raw, and, you know, he was kind of bamboozled by the boxing skills and movement of Korobov. He then fought Durrell a couple of years later, and in that fight he gave Durrell a lot of problems, but obviously he lost the fight due to a disqualification. And in the rematch with Durrell, he completely ran through him and battered him around the ring. I really believe those three fights stand him in good stead going into this one, because they do similar things to Caleb Plant. They're guys who stick and move, who like to jab, who like to make you miss, make you pay, and, you know, try and lower the volume of a contest. Caleb Plant is a fencer, he's a pot shotter, he basically just tries to outpoint you, and Uzcategui is now used to that style. So if Caleb Plant is to win this fight, he will need to show us something that he hasn't shown us to date. I believe he's really going to struggle in this fight, I can't lie. For my money, Korobov and Andre Durrell both hit harder than Caleb Plant, and these guys didn't really discourage Uzcategui from coming forward. I believe that is Caleb Plant's main problem. I don't think he has the power to keep Uzcategui honest. Caleb Plant is quite a light puncher, and that could be a big problem in this fight. Another thing he does, too much for my liking, is sit on the ropes, even against journeymen. who like to sit on the ropes, soak up pressure, slip and slide and counter. That's all well and good against limited guys, and even against guys like Porky Medina that can work, but against an elite pressure fighter like Uzcategui, I think that is a recipe for disaster, especially when you're not a hard puncher. I think when Caleb Plant is in those situations where he's in the corner or against the ropes, trying to slip and slide, I could see him getting overwhelmed, similar to Broner versus Maidana. I think that's a big no-no for Caleb Plant. To me, he needs to stay off the ropes as much as possible. He needs to do what he does best and what he's most comfortable at, which is being the outboxer. He needs to keep Uzcategui guessing, keep him off balance, turn him, spin him, pivot out, give Uzcategui angles and make it hard for him. Try and be elusive, but like I said, he does need to try and discourage Uzcategui. So at times, I do believe he will need to set his feet and actually put some meat in his punches as Uzcategui's coming forward. Sometimes I believe he will have to try and exchange with Uzcategui, trying to get Uzcategui's respect. I don't think milling on the retreat and running is going to be enough in this fight. I do believe he will need to get down and dirty at some point. And when that happens, I favour Uzcategui in a big way. He's a bigger guy, he's a stronger guy, he's a harder puncher, he's more experienced. And, to me, Caleb Plant in the pocket, he's not bad at all. He can get his shots off. In fact, he's got quite good punch variety. But defensively in the pocket and at mid-range, I do feel Caleb Plant is hittable. And that will give Uzcategui opportunities to land his big shots. So stylistically, I do feel this fight favours Jose Uzcategui. And I think it's a bad matchup for Caleb Plant. But who knows, maybe I'm wrong. Caleb Plant, he does have good polished boxing skills. Maybe he is the real deal, but for whatever reason, I cannot see him boxing for 12 rounds against Uzcategui and not running into serious trouble. I think eventually the pressure and the pace of the fight will get to Caleb Plant and Uzcategui will take him out down the stretch. So I see a late stoppage for Jose Uzcategui, but I am intrigued about this fight. Maybe I'm wrong about Caleb Plant, and maybe this guy is the best kept secret in US boxing. We will see. It will all be revealed on January the 13th. Share your thoughts below. How do you see this fight going? Peace.